This week on the Weekly Pinch from Pinch News.
Navalny's widow vows to continue his work to free Russia.
This is an incredible opportunity to bring together two exceptional companies.
Capital One set to buy Discover for $35 billion.
Over the past few days, the Justice Department has worked together with our partners in the United Kingdom and around the world to take down Lockbit, one of the most prolific ransomware variants in the world.
FBI allies take down dark website of Lockbit cybercrime gang.
Beyoncé becomes first black woman to earn a country number one.
Alabama Supreme Court rules embryos are children.
Tougaloo College alum becomes highest-ranking black woman in Coast Guard's 233-year history. Wendy Williams has been diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and dementia. AT&T experiences massive outage across America.
That's why I'm announcing more than 500 new sanctions in response.
Biden administration imposes more than 500 sanctions on Russia over Ukraine war and Navalny's death. Boeing removes head of 737 MAX program.
Yulia Navalnaya has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of killing her husband, Alexei Navalny, and pledged to continue the late opposition leader's fight for a free Russia. In an emotional, and often laced with rage video message, the wife of the deceased leader of the opposition called on her late husband's supporters to battle President Vladimir Putin with greater fury than ever. "I want to live in a free Russia. I want to build a free Russia," Navalnaya said in the video message entitled, "I will continue the work of Alexei Navalny. I urge you to stand next to me," she said, and added, "I ask you to share the rage with me, rage, anger, hatred towards those who dared to kill our future. Vladimir Putin killed my husband," Navalnaya said. "By killing Alexei, Putin killed half of me, half of my heart and half of my soul." She said she knew exactly why Alexei was killed 3 days ago and added that she would release this information soon. The Kremlin has denied involvement in his death and said that Western claims that Putin was responsible for the death were unacceptable. It was unclear where she was speaking from, but she was not in Russia. Navalnaya was due to attend a meeting of European Union foreign ministers in Brussels on Monday, which was considering imposing further sanctions on Russia over her husband's death. 47-year-old Alexei Navalny, one of Russia's most significant opposition figures, had been in jail on charges widely viewed as politically motivated. He died at a remote Arctic prison on Friday. Authorities say he suffered sudden death syndrome.
Today we are announcing an agreement to acquire Discover Financial Services, a leader in credit cards and global payments.
Capital One Financial announced its acquisition of Discover Financial Services for $35 billion in an all-stock deal, uniting two major credit card companies and potentially disrupting the payments industry. Discover shareholders will receive Capital One shares valued at nearly $140 per share, representing a significant premium. The merger brings together two leading credit card providers catering to similar customer bases and aims to create a competitive payments network. Capital One CEO Richard Fairbank sees the acquisition as an opportunity to build a robust payments network. The move reflects Capital One's strategy to capitalize on increasing credit card usage and balances, despite rising defaults and regulatory challenges. While the deal may face regulatory scrutiny and antitrust concerns, consumer groups will push for assurances of its benefits to consumers.
Together, we dismantled and seized infrastructure that the Lockbit ransomware group has used to target over 2,000 victims and extort more than $120 million in ransom payments.
An international law enforcement operation led by the FBI and Britain's National Crime Agency, NCA, has arrested and indicted members of Lockbit, the cybercrime gang. In an unprecedented police operation, the FBI, NCA, and a host of other law enforcement agencies from Australia to Germany have also seized the dark website of the world's most prolific ransomware gangs that was used to extort its victims. It's a blow to the near-term operations of the multinational ransomware gang, Lockbit, Lockbit, which has been terrorizing organizations all over the world. The hackers claimed credit for a November ransomware attack that forced New Jersey-based Capital Health to cancel some patient appointments. It also claimed responsibility for ransomware attacks on the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China and Fulton County, Georgia, in recent months. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement on Tuesday that it was charging 2 Russian nationals with deploying Lockbit ransomware against companies and groups around the world. It added that Lockbit has targeted more than 2,000 victims and received more than $120 million in ransom payments. The NCA and FBI said they had developed software that could let hundreds of victims worldwide decrypt computers locked by the hackers. Like other cash flush ransomware groups, Lockbit rents out its ransomware to affiliates who use the malicious code in attacks and then takes a cut of the ransom paid out by victims. Analysts believe Lockbit has members or criminal partners in Eastern Europe, Russia, and China.
Beyoncé made history by achieving her first country #1 with Texas Hold'em, debuting atop Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart on February 20th. This milestone also marks her as the first black woman to hold the top spot on the chart, with only Taylor Swift preceding her in debuting at #1. Texas Hold'em also debuted at #2 on the all-genre Billboard Hot 100, her highest ever debut. Despite only 4 days of tracking since its release during the Super Bowl, it is expected to rise to #1 on the Hot 100 after a full week of numbers. Additionally, her second single from Act 2, titled 16 Carriages, entered the Hot 100 at #38 and Hot Country Songs at #9. The success of Texas Hold'em highlights the significance of the multi-metric Hot Country Songs chart, which considers sales, streams, and radio airplay, in contrast to the radio-focused country airplay chart. While Beyoncé's country success may not immediately translate to radio traction, her achievement adds to her collection of #1s across various Billboard charts, showcasing her versatility and widespread appeal across genres. Renaissance Act 2 is scheduled to be released on March 29, 2024.
In an unprecedented ruling, Alabama's Supreme Court ruled last week that frozen embryos can be considered children under state law, and those who destroy them could be held liable for wrongful death. This decision puts back into national focus the question of when life begins. Reproductive rights advocates say could have sweeping implications for in vitro fertility treatment, IVF, and for hundreds of Alabamians who seek them every year. Critics believe that the ruling could also have consequences nationally, as other states could attempt to define embryos as people. The court's decision was issued in a case in which a person removed embryos from storage at a fertility clinic and dropped them on the floor accidentally. The parents sued for wrongful death, but a trial court dismissed their claims, finding the cryopreserved in vitro embryos involved in this case do not fit within the definition of a person or child. But in a stunning reversal on this decision, the Supreme Court said extrauterine children or unborn children located outside of a biological uterus at the time they are killed are children, and they are covered under the state's wrongful death of a minor law. Many patients and doctors are unsure of how to navigate the IVF process going forward, given that embryos are often discarded if they have genetic abnormalities or after patients decide they will not need to use them. The decision also raises questions about whether those who undergo IVF will have to store all their embryos indefinitely, but experts said the answer is not yet clear. Storing frozen embryos can cost between $350 to $1,000 each year. Dr. Mamie McLean, a reproductive endocrinologist at Alabama Fertility, said she is concerned about the survival of IVF treatments in the state. Clinics may need to raise prices if they have to pay more for medical malpractice insurance, she said. As a result, fewer people may be able to afford IVF, and fewer insurers may be willing to cover treatments.
Captain Zita Merchant, who is leading the Port of New York and has recently been promoted to Rear Admiral, making history as the highest-ranking black woman in the 233-year history of the U.S. Coast Guard. Merchant, with nearly 27 years in the Coast Guard, said she could never have imagined where she is now. Joining initially just for college debt assistance, she now stands as one of the top emergency managers in the USCG, specializing in large-scale, multi-jurisdictional incident responses. Merchant, who is from Mississippi, graduated from Tougaloo College and HBCU. While pursuing her career in the Coast Guard, she continued her education and earned advanced degrees from George Washington University and the National Graduate School at New England Institute of Business. She's also a graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and a fellow at MIT. Her impactful career includes commanding maritime operations in Chicago and serving in Texas City, Miami, and New Orleans. Merchant has been recognized with various military honors, including medals and commendations. Throughout her career, Merchant quickly climbed the ranks, shattering color and gender barriers. She is often the first minority and woman in her leadership roles. In fact, her role as the captain of the Port of New York is historic, as she is the first ever minority to hold this position. Merchant hopes that her story will inspire young African American women to consider the Coast Guard as a fulfilling career path. After a rigorous confirmation process, Merchant gained Congress approval in December 2023 to be promoted to Rear Admiral. Merchant will officially assume her new rank at USCG headquarters in Washington, D.C. during the Coast Guard's change of command exercises in April. Former talk show host Wendy Williams has been diagnosed with progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia, as revealed by her representatives in a press release. The news aims to address rumors about her health and raise awareness about her condition. Williams received the diagnoses in 2023 and is currently under a court-ordered guardianship. According to the Mayo Clinic, the condition impacts communication, both written and spoken. Williams, known for her candid style, has been open about her health struggles in the past, including addiction and recovery from Graves' disease. She hosted The Wendy Williams Show until 2022 and has a storied career in radio and entertainment. AT&T experienced a widespread network outage across the United States, leaving customers unable to make calls, send texts, or access the Internet. While Verizon and T-Mobile also reported some outages, they were less extensive. AT&T acknowledged the outage but did not provide a reason for it, urging customers to use Wi-Fi calling until service was restored. The outage affected various emergency services, including 911 centers, prompting local governments to advise alternative methods for reaching emergency services. Although AT&T's FirstNet network for first responders remained operational, the company's commercial network was affected. Verizon and T-Mobile confirmed that their networks were unaffected by AT&T's outage. The cause of the outage was a software update gone awry rather than a cyber attack. AT&T confirmed that the outage was the result of an incorrect process during a network expansion and not a malicious attack. As a result, AT&T is conducting assessments to prevent a similar situation from reoccurring. The Biden administration imposed a comprehensive set of sanctions on over 500 targets in response to the death of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny and Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. These sanctions, announced on the eve of the 2-year anniversary of Russia's war in Ukraine, represent the largest single-day tranche of sanctions since the conflict began. President Biden attributed the sanctions to Putin's aggression and Navalny's death, emphasizing Putin's responsibility for the latter. The sanctions include restrictions on accessing U.S. assets and financial systems and target entities involved in Russia's military-industrial base, as well as those facilitating sanctions evasion. The State Department also imposed sanctions on individuals connected to Navalny's death. The sanctions package underscores the U.S. commitment to holding Russia accountable for its actions, with officials emphasizing efforts to disrupt Russia's military supply chain and financial infrastructure. The EU and UK are expected to announce their own sanctions in coordination with the US. Boeing has removed executive Ed Clark, head of its troubled 737 MAX passenger jet program, following a mid-air blowout incident in January. Clark, an 18-year company veteran, will be succeeded by Kat Ringgold as vice president and general manager of the 737 program and Boeing's factory in Renton, Washington. The 737 MAX, Boeing's top-selling plane, has faced ongoing issues, including a 20-month grounding in 2019-2020 after 2 fatal crashes. Clark, in charge since March 2021, assumed responsibility for recent incidents, including a door plug blowing out on an Alaska Airlines flight. Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun accepted responsibility for the incidents. Elizabeth Lund has been named Senior Vice President for BCA Quality, with Mike Fleming and Katie Ringgold assuming new roles. The incidents have also delayed the certification of new MAX versions, the MAX 7 and MAX 10. CEOs of Boeing's three key customers, United Airlines, Southwest, and Delta Air Lines, have stated that they no longer expect to receive the new versions of the planes they had previously ordered anytime soon. The CEO of United went as far as referring to the Alaska Air incident as the straw that broke the camel's back, concerning his airline's planning to purchase the new MAX 10. That wraps up all of the news from the Weekly Pinch. Tune in next week for more. In the meantime, visit us online at www.pinchnews.com.